Welcome to episode 3, and today we're talking to a chap who says he does things a little bit differently than everybody else, including me, actually.
Hey, I'm Car Boot Chris. I'm a full-time UK online reseller. I operate mainly on eBay and also Whatnot, but also some other platforms as well. I'm going to bring you regular podcasts all about reselling, hopefully to keep you company, to entertain, or maybe to educate. Who knows? Welcome to the Everything Reselling Podcast.
Hi, everybody. We've made it to episode 3 of the podcast. Would you believe it? People are actually listening to this as well on Spotify and Amazon, Alexa, and all that stuff. So I appreciate it if you're there listening to this now. And today we've got a guest, and we'll bring him on in just a second. For those who don't know, I'm a full-time reseller. I operate mainly on eBay and Whatnot. I do dabble in other platforms, but they're the two main ones. And yeah, I've been doing this since 2015. Started off part-time, and I'm now a full-time reseller. So without further ado, let's just get our guest on and let's get on with it. Welcome to Bill, aka Dungeons and Joypads.
Hi Chris, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it actually. So looking forward to getting into this.
Great stuff. Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it as well. It's good to speak to somebody perhaps who you don't talk to as much as some other people, because we haven't spoken that much, have we? Even though we've followed each other, we've interacted on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been floating around the reseller community for the last probably 5 years or so, 4 or 5 years. But I've been reselling probably close to 10, if maybe not a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of just before the lockdown started, or it's probably about a year before the lockdown started. I started sort of hanging around the reseller community. I didn't even realise that it was a thing.
So as an introduction, do you want to tell everybody who might not know who you are, like what you do, what you sell, how long you've been doing it, and whereabouts you sell stuff?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Bill. I own Dungeons and Joypads Limited, so it's a limited company. I've been reselling for around 10 years, and we sell everything from toys to trading cards to collectibles, all that sort of stuff. But like every other reseller on the circuit, I'm also a bit of everything as well. But most of the brand is just toys and collectibles, that sort of stuff. Nerd culture.
Whereabouts do you sell? What platforms?
So we use eBay. We've also got our own website as well. So dungeonsandjoypads.com. Yeah, so those are the two platforms that we use. Oh, Whatnot as well. We also stream every week on Whatnot.
I've seen you on Whatnot. Yeah, I popped into a show that you had on this week just to have a quick look. I'm not really a trading card sort of person, so you know, I know nothing. I see that you do a lot of like Pokemon stuff and that, and I know nothing about Pokemon.
Yeah, it's had a massive boom over the last couple of years for sure, and I think a lot of people have kind of refound their their interest in it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a decent sort of line to get into because it's so varied and vast, and there's so much history there as well. So yeah, it's something I've always been interested in. I've been a long life Pokemon fan.
I wish I could get into it. I wish I could, because it's pretty cool. How many? Just out of interest, do you know how many Pokemon creatures there are?
Oh, it's over 1,000 now. It's like 1,100.
Is it that many?
Like that. Yeah, it is that many.
How do people remember like all the names of Pokemon? Because I've got about 5 in my head, and that's about it.
Well, I think if you grew up with it, you'd instantly know the first 150.
Right.
I used to be able to recite them in order, from number 1 to number 151. But then I think if you've followed the franchise for the last 25 years, they don't just launch 1,000 Pokemon at you. It's 150, then it was 250, then 350. So you kind of only had to learn another 100 Pokemon every generation, which is about 4 years. What it is now, anyway.
Are they still like releasing more now, or is this it now? or is there still more
Yeah,
coming?
no, we've got Generation 9 just came out. It's in the region of Paldea, which is Spain. It's based on Spain. Sword and Shield was actually based on England. So there was like new Pokemon introduced, like Sinistee, who's basically just a cup of tea. um, so yeah, but they're still bringing them out. Generation 10, I'm sure, will come out in another 3 years as well.
Just reading a comment on YouTube here. The Dave says, no idea about Pokemon. I'm old, 44. Well, I'm 45, Dave, so we're in the same boat here.
You know, there's Pokemon is such a wide range of ages, though. I mean, another place that we sell at is like conventions and shows.
Yeah.
And you know, our customer base is from 5 years old to 80 years old. It really is vast.
So let's get into this. Quite a bold statement you made to me when we first made contact, Bill. You said to me, "I do things a bit different, and something that perhaps most resellers don't do." So what is that? What do you do differently?
Well, the thing that I've tried to create out of my reselling journey is a brand that people recognise. So I know that, and I watch a lot of resellers on YouTube, but a lot of them are focused on helping other resellers. Whereas what I've tried to do is focus on creating a customer base and a community of people that like to watch the videos. I'm not revealing what I necessarily bought that day or how much I paid for it. I'm more showing it off as an advert to the people that watch the videos that might want to buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, our YouTube is a very, very small channel. We've only got like 350 subscribers. But one of our videos hit 70,000 views, over 70,000 views. That was pretty crazy.
Wow. What was that?
It was called "I Bought a Massive Pokemon Collection."
Right. So that really tickled people's fancy then, that.
Yeah, it got really pushed. I mean, it was getting like a few thousand views a day at one point, and then I think it got tailed off after I started posting more videos. I think YouTube stops recommending older content. But yeah, set over 70,000. I was really impressed with that. Haven't got anywhere close since.
And you're not monetized. That's a shame, isn't it?
I know, yeah, because obviously I haven't got 1,000 subscribers yet, but I'm pushing for it. We're a third of the way there. I've got the watch hours now.
Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you a bit there. So
no, not at all. No.
Talking about sort of how you do things differently.
Yeah, so that's kind of how. I mean, I know that a lot of people on Instagram and all of the social medias, their Instagrams are for other resellers. Which I always kind of find a little bit odd. I understand that there's like a community of resellers, but for me personally, I always kind of find that your Instagram is really the best way for you to try and attract no commission sales. Sales that you don't have to pay eBay for.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I mean, and there's people like yourself. You've got a much bigger platform than I have as well, and not necessarily that a website is the best solution for everybody, but I definitely think it's. There's kind of missed opportunity there in creating an online presence for a customer base instead of an audience of resellers. Maybe I'm not coming across.
No, I totally get you. But I guess it's tricky for someone like me to just like start a website. I've been there. I've had a Shopify when I first started. I did a Shopify thing. Didn't really work for me. But I think when you're an everything seller, it's kind of hard to set up a website because who are you targeting? Like, who would I be targeting? Like, if I'm sorting out Google Ads, who do I want to direct to my website? I'm selling clothing, I'm selling toys, I'm selling games, whatever I get my hands on, I'll sell it. And that's quite hard, I think, to set up on a website, whereas you've got a bit of a niche, haven't you? You've kind of you've got your Pokemon, you've got your collectibles and toys, and it's all in the same sort of niche or the same category, almost the same category. So that makes life a bit easier for you to set up a website.
Yeah, I mean, you still pick up quite a lot of nerd culture though, like Funko Pops and stuff like that. And I think your website definitely, or any platform that you use, apart from eBay, of course, but you really should be niched down anyway. I mean, I still buy everything. I still buy shoes. I still buy women's clothes. I still buy, radios and electronics.
Oh, okay.
all of this other stuff
So you
as well.
do all that stuff, but what you do is you channel your niche stuff to your
into a
website,
brand. Yeah,
into your brand.
exactly.
Okay. So you kind of got a couple of different arms going on. You've got your everything stuff, which is on eBay, I assume.
Yes, on eBay, yeah.
Mainly eBay. And then you've got your niche stuff, your nerd culture stuff, and that pop culture. That's all going down the Dungeons and Joypads route. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I mean, I'm not one to sort of walk past a stall that has a load of shoes on it and oh no, we'll only sell toys. I'm not going to leave. It's like leaving money on the table. But I think a lot of people that know my brand don't actually know that I might sell, women's clothes or ornaments or, whatever I might come across. I mean, one thing we picked up quite a lot of recently was Christmas lights, like a load of old vintage Pifco Christmas lights.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like, I'm sure you know how expensive they can be. It's just absolutely crazy money. But yeah, a lot
Anything
of people don't
vintage
know that.
Christmas does well, doesn't it?
God, I mean, these lights were like 70, 80 quid a pop, Just absolutely crazy prices. But yeah, there's no way that I would leave that on the table just because I collect, just because I sell niche toys and stuff.
So I just saw a comment on YouTube here. Jeff says, "Nerd." We have reclaimed that word, Chris. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it because a lot of people who go to niche down, into a category, they will niche down into that category and literally leave everything else on the table. But you've kind of said to yourself, I'm going to pick up everything, but when I come to sell it and when I come to market it, that's when I'm going to split it up. Which makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I really like the way that you sort of picked that up, because I've started doing a kind of similar thing with my Whatnot. In that, up until March this year, when I first started on Whatnot, I really wasn't picking up any low value or lower value toys, games, pop figures. Anything I was just disregarding anything under £10 because I thought, well, it's just not worth my time on eBay. But then when I started Whatnot, I started revisiting and changing my sort of sourcing strategy, if you like. And I started picking up those lower value items again. Because if you can flip something really quickly, like overnight in one day, or in a week, if you can flip something really fast for a lower profit, it still can be worth doing it. Like if I do a Whatnot show, and you'll know similar because you're on Whatnot yourself. But if I can sell 70 items in one go, like in one sitting on a show, and most of them I've bought that same week, and they might not be massive value, so it might not be something that I'd automatically put on eBay. It's still really worth doing it because the time it takes to list the item on eBay, the time it takes to photograph it, the time it takes to research the value of it, I don't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I just have to put it on Whatnot on a show and sell it live. And it's almost like a little bit of a different niche that I'm working on. And most of the stuff now that I buy for Whatnot never even hits eBay. It never goes on eBay. And a lot of the time, even now, because it's getting more popular, I'm not even researching items. I'm just saying to myself, that's suitable for Whatnot. It might not get as much money as if it's sat for a month on eBay, but I'm prepared to accept that because it's a quick flip.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. With Whatnot, even if you make £2 on an item, if you've sold 70 items, there's still £140 that you've made.
Yeah,
and that's more than what most people make in a full-time job. Sitting at a desk or working wherever they work, and that's on top of what you've earned on eBay that day, and whatever other platforms that you sell on as well. And I definitely agree with you. I mean, there's been so many opportunities where people have approached me and said, there was a guy at a boot sale recently. He had a massive like a carrier bag, not a carrier bag, but like the bags for life, full up with action figures. He's like, "Oh, do you want these?" I said, "Oh, to be honest with you, mate, it's a bit too much work." He said, "You can have the lot for a tenner if you want." It's like, well, there's like 100 figures in there, so you're not going to turn that down. And then even if you sell them for £2 each on a Whatnot stream, this it's 10 seconds. You can do 10-second auctions, 15-second auctions. There's little to no work involved. You can just hold it up and make £2, £3 an item.
Yeah, I mean that I would snap the rand off at that. But like a few months ago, I might not have bothered because, like you said, the work involved not worth it. But now there's a different platform that helps you do things a little bit differently. It's worth thinking about. So sometimes you just have to change and like, I hate the word, but oh no, I'm not saying it. But sometimes you just have to. You just have to move with the times and just sort of no. There's no other word for it. Sometimes you have to pivot, depending on what's going on at the time.
Well, I think as well, like when I first started reselling a long time ago, and I was saying to you just before the podcast started, I used to be able to sit on Gumtree all day, and just order parcels off of Gumtree, and there'd be games consoles coming to my house every single day of the week through Gumtree. But definitely one thing I've noticed that since lockdown and since the whole COVID situation happened, there's been such a mad rush for people becoming resellers. That's the P word. And the competition among us, not because we're competing each other on price, but we're competing with each other on sourcing. And that's definitely become a lot harder over the last few years, I would say. And as a result, like you say, you have to readjust, realign, pivot.
That's better. Yeah, I couldn't think of that word.
But you have to stay vigilant in this game. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't get by on your knowledge of 10 years ago because the market moves so quickly for different things.
So you touched on it a bit there about like places where you source. Whereabouts do you get your stock from? Because you've got a real mixture of stuff. So where do you source?
Largely the same places that every other reseller does: boot sales, charity shops. And also because we've got a brand now, people approach us with their own, toys and stuff. So they'll say, "Oh, I've got all these toys up in the attic. Would you swap me for some Pokemon, or for some trading cards or something?" It's like, "Yeah, I'll do that. It's no problem." There's loads of different places that you can source. I source on eBay, Facebook Marketplace occasionally when people bother to respond to you.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it? It's awful.
Yeah, I don't. My dad has better luck on Facebook Marketplace than I do, and he's a dinosaur.
Do you go wholesale route as well?
Yeah, so for our Pokemon and stuff like that, we use wholesale. There isn't really much margin in the wholesale stuff, but the whole reason why we picked it up really was to kind of create attraction to the store. People were attracted to the store because we stock Pokemon and One Piece, and we're partnered with another game called MetaZoo, and the idea was that people would hopefully take an interest into the toys, and it'd create traffic on the website and all that sort of stuff that would hopefully generate sales as well.
Do you buy Pokemon cards wholesale, like brand new boxes and stuff?
Yeah, so we've got a distributor.
What kind of margin do you see on that kind of thing?
At the moment, it's poor. During like the COVID times, the margins are pretty high. But now, nowadays, the booster boxes might cost you £90 a box at wholesale, and at the minute they're selling for about 100. So, I've stopped personally stocking it. There was a really hot set that just came out recently called 151, and that was a sort of nostalgic trip back to the original 151 Pokemon. And that was like hotcakes, So I ordered as much of that as I could. But yeah, you're not going to get the same margins in this as what you do with the stuff at the boot sale. Stuff at the boot sale, you get 20 times your money or something.
You never do you? When you buy wholesale anyway.
No.
But like when you're selling Pokemon cards on Whatnot, and do you do like breaks and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do breaks. Yeah.
Does that enable you to earn more from that box, or how does it work? How does the profit work when you do stuff like that?
With a Pokemon box, there isn't an MSRP for a box because a box isn't supposed to be sold that way. When you get your list, the MSRP is like $4.49 a pack, and then you've got 36 packs in a box. But because people buy them, as a box, you end up sort of making a lot less. If it's a really hot set like Y151, you know, people were paying up to, you know, £6-7 a pack for those.
Right.
So there's a lot more margin in sort of hotter sets, especially if, I mean, 151 was only printed once. There wasn't any restocks of it, so it became really hard to get really quickly. And even the cards inside the packs, even just the basic ones that are usually like £5-6, are now 25 and 30. So that definitely helps with, you know, with your packs and stuff.
I've always wanted to ask somebody this who does Pokemon. So you buy like these boxes of cards, like wholesale. Like, is there a temptation there just to open them all up yourself and
All the
like
time.
you might get, you might get some rare cards in there that are worth a ton of money?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a Pokemon
Okay.
fan through
I
and
found
through,
this on the
so
web.
it's
Is there a
difficult for me.
temptation there just to open them all of yourself and like you might get, and you know you might get some rare cards in there that are worth a ton of money. Check it out.
Jesus. No.
Okay.
Sorry. Serious button in there.
So yeah, I mean, I'm a Pokemon fan, so I love opening cards and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
during the last generation, there definitely was sort of room to have arbitrage from the boxes. In the current era, Pokemon have made everything quite easy to pull. So unfortunately, there isn't much arbitrage at the boxes these days. Even some of the sort of the really sought after Charizards are only like £30-40. So if you're paying £100 for a box, and the best card in it's £40, then there's not really too much opportunity there.
But isn't there any value in the rest of them? That if that is your best card, is there no value in bundling up the rest? And
not really. I mean, you might get £10 for the bulk, and then you
Really?
might get, and then you might get £5-6 for some of the lower end cards.
So if you're buying a box, like in the hope of getting, you know, a couple of good cards in there, then your chances are fairly slim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your chances now are higher at getting the card that you want, but the value of them is less, because the whole thing with the market is, and you know, a lot of people are on different sides of the fence with this. Some people want everything to be easy, and some people want stuff to have value. And I think ultimately, if you're spending £100 on a box and you're pulling a £40 card, you might as well have just bought the card.
Yeah.
So in the market now, you're seeing that actually reflect, and people aren't buying as much sealed products as what they were a couple of years ago. Because you know, when there was a massive chase card that was hitting £500, it was worth people opening that product to try and, you know, get that card. You know.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So
It's always about the thrill of opening them, though, isn't it? And hoping you get something. Any
Definitely.
mystery box or anything like that is the same.
Yeah, 100%. It is still thrilling to open, but I think a lot of people these days feel like there's no chase to it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people enjoy the most. It's not necessarily that they've pulled a £500 card; it's the chase of it, you know.
Yeah, I get it. We were talking before about your website and how you kind of moved into having your own website and that. And Fluffy Muffin here on YouTube has asked a question which I was going to ask you, because it's something that always it's another reason to put me off having a website, is to how you get people to visit it, how people find you, how much do you have to spend in ads, Google ads, in order to get traffic. So Fluffy Muffin says, how much work does it take to drive traffic to your website versus a selling platform like eBay?
I mean, your website's never going to get as much traffic as eBay, unless you set up Amazon or something like that. And I think that's definitely something you've got to kind of get into your head, is that just because you build it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll come. I mean, I personally, for better or worse, I don't spend any money on ads.
Do you not?
No, I mean, you can use Google Analytics, and as long as I mean, with Shopify as well, Shopify actually links up to Google Analytics. And basically what it does, you upload your entire inventory onto Google, and then Google will list it on Google Shopping. if you've got barcodes for the stuff that you're selling, it will be easier for you to find. And definitely since I've been using the Google, I think it's called Google Analytics. But anyway, since I've been using that, you do notice that sales do come through quite often for different things, and they're always new customers. You can see on your website as well how many orders a person's made. So yeah, I mean, maybe I should pay for ads. I don't. But I think the reason for that as well is because I'm trying to sort of grow it fairly organically.
Yeah.
Again, for better or worse. I mean, you know, we post a lot on social media. We're very interactive with our community. You know, we post you know, pictures and videos and polls and, you know, what's your favourite toy and, you know, stuff like that. And I think that in itself gets shared around. And you know, with these sorts of, with a collectibles website, a lot of people just use like the big websites, you know, because there's not really a lot that you can offer in terms of price. And actually, the bigger shops can offer a lower price because they buy it in such a large amount that they get it cheaper than what we do. So you can really only kind of get by on, you know, being active within in your community, I think. Trying to attract new people that way. That's the way I've tried to do it anyway.
No, I understand. Yeah, I mean the margins are small on wholesale stuff. I remember when I had a shopper about 20 years ago, and you know, I used to buy brand new computer games. What was the console at the time? PS2, PS3.
20 years ago?
Yeah, PS2, PS3 ish, something like that. And it used to cost me about 35 quid to buy a brand new wholesale PS2 game that would sell for 40. And, you know, it's pointless. It's literally pointless. But the value always lied when people would trade in exchange for that game. So if somebody brought in 5 second-hand PS2 games, traded it for the £35 game that cost me £35, and then that's where I make my money, is when I resell those 5 second-hand games. So yeah, almost like not a loss leader, but you kind of don't really make money on the new bit, but you make money on the second-hand. I don't know if you remember, but do you remember like 25 years ago, Argos went through a phase of selling like brand new games for $29.99.
Yeah, I do vaguely actually, and it took a lot of business out of.
Oh yeah, it killed a lot of us. But I was going as a shop owner. I wasn't buying at that point. I stopped buying from wholesalers, and I just go and buy my stock from Argos. Literally, it was ridiculous how wholesalers were trying to sell me a game for 35 quid that was being sold in Argos for $29.99 is crazy. But that's what I used to do, and actually make a bit more money by doing that way. But yeah, that's why I just understand the pain of like wholesale, and the margins are so tiny.
And the thing is as well with wholesale stuff is that when something new comes out, there's about 1,000 different stores in the country that are all trying to sell that same thing. And the price drops so dramatically, and because there isn't much margin on it anyway, you know, when the price does drop, you actually lose, you know, all of your margin. But when you're selling sort of older stock, vintage stuff, the market's been the same way for a long time, and it already has been that way, and the market movements are going to be less volatile on a day-to-day basis.
What so you sell on, let me get this right, you've got eBay, you've got your own website, you've got Whatnot, and you do the trade shows.
Oh yeah, we do trade shows as well. Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
I think that's kind of it, really. Oh well, we've also launched a new business recently as well. So I've actually got 2 websites now.
But, you've got this pin pal, haven't you?
Yeah, so we've just launched a new product, so we could definitely talk about that if you want to. I didn't want to change the subject.
We'll get to that in a second if you want, Bill.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you was, what are your percentages of like where you sell? So if you split it up, what are your main sort of selling platforms?
Definitely would be eBay, and then just the website really. I mean, whatnot we do still, we don't stream half as much as probably what we should and whatnot. And I think in the run up to Christmas, I'm definitely going to start booking in a lot more streams. But for me, eBay and the website. I mean, this is the thing: is when you try to bring everything together into your website, you will notice that there'll be a kind of disparity between what is selling and where it's selling. I mean, very much it's still the case that eBay is the biggest seller for me for toys and older stuff, but for Pokemon trading cards and that sort of stuff, people use the website for that.
Okay.
And it's, I mean, the thing is with sticking Pokemon on eBay as well is because the fees are so high, you'd literally lose money if you stuck Pokemon on there.
Yeah.
So it has to go through the website. But yeah, I'd say probably. I mean, we do still sell quite a lot of toys through the website, but most of it is via eBay, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But then you won't be able to get access to wholesale without a website anyway. So it's one of those things where you have to have it in order to get. You've got to spend money to make the money. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand. Just going back to what we were talking about with Google Ads and stuff, Tea Cakes here on YouTube has said ads are a big waste of money. If only it were that easy. And I guess it's one of those things, a bit like eBay's promoted listings. I guess it's like if you've got a website, do you think that once you go down the route of paid ads, do you think it could end up being a bit of a rabbit hole where you just can't kind of get out of it once you start paying for it? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that, honestly. I mean, it's probably, I mean, Google's a multi-billion-dollar company, so I'm sure that their ads do work. Do they work for big companies like Ford and Morrison's, and because they're spending a lot of money on ads? And does it work for small people like us who might spend £100 on ads?
Yeah.
Because the spend is definitely relative to your engagement. If you spend £1 million on ads, you'll make a hell of a lot of sales compared to if you spent £100 on ads.
Yeah.
But I think a lot, one thing that Elon Musk has been talking about since he bought out Twitter was that ads are being shown to bots. So a lot of the time you're paying for ads to be shown to people that aren't even sat behind the screen.
Okay.
And it's kind of unclear how widespread that is and how much of your money is actually being wasted. They don't really know the answer to this.
Yeah.
So that's why
never get to the bottom of that, will we?
No.
Madness. Santa on YouTube here says, Bill, the website looks awesome, and I agree. I had a good look through it this week before we came on, so that I sort of knew what I was looking at, and it does look really nice. But Santa says, any insight on why you went for .com instead of .co.uk?
The main reason for that is just because we wanted to attract international custom, and we do sell stuff all over the world. I mean, stuff goes to America, go to Sweden, France, Germany, and I think .co.uk is very limiting. And from what I remember, it was the same price. So I mean, I think maybe it's just like an age thing. Like where I grew up in the internet age, everything was a .com, and then .co.uk was like a side hustle.
Like a baby brother or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how no one uses the .london. No one's using that .london.
Well, there's .everything now.
Yeah,
there's loads of them.
but some of them I always think like, oh, we could use like .tf or whatever that you want to use. But it looks like it could be fake, or it could be like a scam link or something like that.
I guess the .com is the one that gives you the most credibility and the most widespread reach, maybe.
Yeah, that was basically my thought process.
Do you own any other ones? Do you own the .co.uk one just in case?
I don't think I do actually. No, I don't think I do. No,
I might just go off and quick. Let's buy the .co.uk one.
Yeah, you're welcome to it, Chris. You're welcome to it if you want to set up your own website. But Yeah, no, maybe perhaps that is something that I should do, and then we can always reroute it. But
It's probably an
it's not right
idea,
now.
isn't it, to at least get the next biggest one, which is probably .co.uk, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and it's really cheap as well. I mean, like domains are so inexpensive. I think like the first year if you really wanted to try out a website, the domain will cost you like it's less than £10 for a year.
Yeah.
So it's a negligible amount of money. I mean, I spend more than that on chocolate bars a week.
Yeah. Tea Cakes on YouTube says I budgeted £1,000 a month for ads 1 year. £1,000 a month. Wow.
That's a lot of money.
And it had very little difference, if any. That's
and
a
it's
lot.
hard to know what the reason why is as well, right? Because are you using the correct are you using the correct target audience? Are you using the correct keywords? Is the picture that you're advertising with just not good? There's so many different variables, and it's so hard to really pin down the reason why, and it could actually just be all of the reasons.
Yeah. And when you're setting up ads and stuff, it can be a bit tricky, can't it? It's not. I don't think it's necessarily a simple procedure to make sure that you're maximizing your ad spend.
No, definitely not. And actually, I think you'd probably be better off, maybe talking to some YouTubers or something that are in that field. I mean, that's what we've done in the past. Is we've sent out free product to YouTubers with a community. Can you open up this on your channel? Can you talk about us? Put a link on it. We'll give you a discount code for the website. And I think that probably works a little bit better, just on the basis that you're actually hitting a targeted audience. Like, this is a Pokemon YouTuber who has Pokemon people watching him, so they're more inclined to buy a Pokemon. Whereas if you put out an ad, it might be shown to people that are into casino cards. They might be poker players. Because you put cards in the title of the ad. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but I was just using that as an example.
Okay, so we touched on it a minute ago about you've got this whole other brand going on, haven't you? Called PinPal. Do you want to tell everybody like what that is?
Yeah, so me and my sister, we set up a new business this year called PinPal, and it is, I'll show you one actually. So it's actually a binder for your pins. Now, I'll open this up so I can show you inside. But this is a product that's never been done before, and we found that we had a collection of pins from Pokemon boxes that were just sitting in a tin. And when I used to speak to other people, like, what do you do with these pins? They just go, I don't know, just put them in a box. I haven't really got anywhere to put them. So this is what we came up with. Hopefully you can see it. That we've got our logo just on the front here, PinPal. And when you open it up, you have a 2 foam balls that you can actually store your pins on.
Yeah, I can see it.
And then this sheet here is just to protect the pins for when you close the binder, so they don't scratch each other.
So is it two pages that you've got there?
You've got 2 pages there, yeah. So you've got one on each side. And this foam was like specially made for this binder as well. I mean, I don't think I've got any. Oh, I've got a pin here. I'll show you a pin. So you put your pin in, and it literally just sits there like that. I mean, you can shake it. Like that pin is coming out of that binder, So
for those listening, because obviously I'm looking at it. So it's like it looks like almost like a material photo album that you would store photos in. It opens up with a zip, and it's like got 2 pages that you can pin your pins on and store them with a protective sheet in the middle.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, if you picture like a binder that you put your cards in,
like a binder for cards. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is instead of having flappy pages in the middle, this has just kind of got 2 solid foam balls.
Yeah.
To kind of display your pins.
So tell us a bit about how that came about, and like Is this something that you've had designed from scratch, or is it something that's was already existed and you put your name on, like a white label type thing?
No, we literally had this disabled. We had this designed. We had this designed ourselves. We approached a factory, had everything designed how we wanted. And we've even got a first edition stamp on the spine, as you can see.
That's a
there
nice
as well.
touch.
So these are our first editions, our first print. But yeah, that was kind of. It was a long process. We started the work in February, and then we finally started shipping them out in the beginning of November. Yeah.
This November, like a month ago.
Literally a month ago, yeah. So it's a
Wow.
really new product. And yeah, you know there isn't currently a solution for this that we've been able to find in the UK, and there's so many. The pin market is so. I mean, especially in the Disney world.
I was
Disney
going to
pins
say
are
this
really
could go
marketable.
across all different pins. This is not just Pokemon, is it? This is any kind of pins.
Yeah, well, the idea came about because of Pokemon. I mean, because we've got all these Pokemon pins, and it's like, well, what do people do with these? And we saw some really crazy ideas, like people sticking them to cardboard and flags and all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't really like a professional solution to it, you know. So we decided to come up with a binder, as binders are, you know, everybody's using binders for their cards, so it just made sense to make a binder for pins as well. Yeah.
So how did you like even find a Let's start there. How do you even find a factory to do something like that? And then what are the costs involved in getting a product like that, to market?
So I mean, in terms of finding a factory, there's a few different ways you can use it. I mean, a lot of people use like Alibaba, or they'll use Made in China, I think it is, or one of those websites. It's a bit difficult though. You do have to kind of do your research and try to find a seller on the platform that is actually a factory. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. For example, if you've got like a company that is making plastics, and they're in. I mean, I'm not going to get this right, by the way, but I'm just going to throw some names out there. If there's like a plastic company in Shenzhen, well, Shenzhen usually makes electronics, so they're probably just some office in the Shenzhen area that will then send your orders to a factory. So what you actually want to do is try and find an actual factory, and that took us a little while actually to find us a factory that was actually a factory. But in terms of the costs, I mean, the costs really, it kind of, obviously it depends on what you're making, right? I mean, this is a fairly kind of basic, simple item. There's not a lot of moving parts to it. So the cost involved really is like your molds, the screen print for your logos and that sort of stuff. Like, as you can see on, I don't know if you can see actually, but the logo is actually embossed on our binder.
Yeah, you got an I can see the logo there.
Yeah, so you have to get like a mold for that and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, it's kind of difficult to describe kind of what the cost is involved. I mean, basically you just kind of say, this is what we want, this is how many we want, and then what sort of price can you get that to? And then we would make adjustments, and then the price would adjust, and depending on quantity. But definitely the more you buy, the cheaper you'll get them.
Yeah. So you've only been selling them actually to the market like for about a month or so.
Yeah.
And have they gone okay, or are they going?
Yeah, there's been so many positive sort of comments about it. I mean, everybody that's seen it's been like, oh my god, I can't believe this hasn't been done sooner. So there's been some really good feedback. We've sent a whole bunch out. People are buying it, and they are selling. Definitely, we need to get the name out there a little bit more.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to market it?
I think the biggest plan will be just to send some binders out to some YouTubers and get them to make a video on it. You know, if you're a Disney YouTuber or a Pokemon YouTuber, that'd probably be the best way.
Instagrammers and stuff, and see if they can like do some stories on it and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And and this is another sort of benefit of going to trade shows and stuff, is that you get to network quite a lot. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of Pokey Chloe, but she's quite a big Pokemon YouTuber in the UK. We actually stalled next to her at the last show, so we was actually stood with her and chatting with her all weekend. So I was thinking of maybe approaching her to see if she can get, she might want to do a video on it or something like that. So there's loads of different ways. I mean, another thing that we did was a giveaway. So if you share it to your story, share it on Twitter, and comment a friend and all that sort of stuff. So there's definitely ways that you can get it out there for free. I mean, giving away a binder isn't free, of course, but it was certainly cheaper than pay-per-click.
But there's always a cost to marketing anyway, isn't there? So
yeah,
you know, in your instance, the cost will be, you know, the price that it costs you to have one made, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the cost of that is, I mean, we sell these for £30, so the cost of a £30 binder is much lower than paying, you know, £100 for clicks on Facebook that you might not even do any sales anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that seems reasonable to me, that is a £30 item, you know, that to retail. You know, if I was into pins and collecting and stuff like that, then I think that's a reasonable price point.
We tried to price it sort of similar to market-leading card binders. So there's a couple of market-leading binder companies in the UK. VaultX is one of them, and they sell their binders for between £25 and £30. And I think even a little bit more if it's a slightly bigger one, or if it's like a special edition, for example. So we wanted to price it sort of similar to that. I mean, obviously this is our first run as well, so the cost for us is always going to be higher because we've got to pay for the molds outright and all that sort of stuff. But on our next run, we won't have to pay for those again.
Right.
So we'll just have to pay for materials, manufacture, and all that sort of stuff. So the cost should come down. In the next run, though, we plan to sort of launch more colours, maybe even different sizes and stuff like that. And we were in the process of trademarking as well. So we've already got PinPal trademarked.
And you've got a website for that as well. You've got a website.
We've got a website for that as well, yeah. pin-pal.com, because pinpal.com was already taken.
Yeah.
We even tried to contact the guy to see if he wanted to sell it, because the domain isn't used. It's just he just keeps updating it every year and just keeps buying it.
Okay.
But yeah, he didn't want to sell it, so we've had to sort of stick with this. Maybe if we become a multi-million-pound company, we'll offer him an inordinate amount of money for it. But until then, but yeah, it's going pretty well so far. I'm happy with how it's going. I'm definitely happy with the reaction that it's had as well. It's been some really sort of positive reactions.
You know what would be quite good, I reckon, and you've probably already thought of this anyway. This is just my first impression of that, of the PinPal folder thing. If you had pages so that you could do multiple pages in it, so it wasn't just an open out.
One on each side. You have one in the middle that you can
another page or another couple of pages, but obviously that would make it thicker.
Yeah. So there's so many ideas that I've got with this. Like I say, you know, the next one we're gonna maybe do like
Dragon's Den.
Binder. I mean, I did consider going on Dragon's Den, but I don't know.
You don't want to get ripped apart.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I wanted at least the people that thought it was a good idea to stay thinking it was a good idea.
Stick around people that think it's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, we've even designed it in such a way that even we can have artwork printed on the foam. So, for example, if we ever got to make a Disney one, for example, we could have a massive Mickey Mouse artwork on the foam, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's completely customizable, and in the future, that's definitely what we plan to do. Maybe approach different brands, try and get like a Disney binder made, or I mean that's quite far down the line, but just as Disney as an example.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess you got to think this far ahead, haven't you? Because you got to have like end goals, sort of, you know, licensing deals, and you know, it could be anything like that, couldn't it? And you know, somebody comes along and offers you a few million quid to buy the thing off you.
Yeah. Oh god, I bite their hand off. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's something, and I do personally think it is a really good product. I'm really happy with how it's come out and the quality and all that sort of stuff. And you know, the price point is definitely where I'd want it to be as well. I wouldn't want it to be any more expensive or, you know, any cheaper, because it is still supposed to be a premium product. And you know, often the pins that you're storing in your binder are going to be worth more than the binder anyway.
Yeah.
So I remember watching a video of this guy years ago. He used to sell phone cases on Amazon, and he used to sell the same phone case as this Chinese company that used to sell them for a tenner, that he repackaged them and used to sell them for £35.
Okay.
And the reason why is because what would you rather store your £800 phone in, a £10 phone case or a £35 phone case.
Yeah.
They're exactly the same, but in your mind, the £35 one must provide more protection.
Must be better. Yeah, must
It
be.
must be, and it's exactly the same. And he said, like, I used to make
Madness,
millions
isn't
of
it?
this. It's crazy, isn't it? The human perception
Crazy.
and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot on your plate. I mean, Jesus, you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, I tried to keep myself busy.
Just a bit. I mean, you might need to go back and watch episode 1, which is all about work-life balance.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a job as well. I mean, I've only been doing this full time this has always been a full-time job for me, but I used to do it on top of a full-time job as well. And there was no work-life balance there. I used to be taking photos of stuff while I was supposed to be doing my other job. I'd be talking to customers on the phone, taking photos of Pokemon.
What was your other job? What did you do before?
Well, I used to work for councils. I used to do contract work for councils, and I used to be a council tax and benefits specialist.
Okay.
So they would ask me to come in, and what I ended up getting into was council tax recovery. So tracking people down, finding large debts. People that owe 100 grand, things like that. And then I was like managing projects and departments in the end. It's not very fulfilling. I'd much rather be playing with Pokemon all day,
Yeah, opening boxes and packs and.
Yeah.
By the way, let's talk about Whatnot just for a minute. So how is that doing for you? How long have you been on there, and how's it going?
We've been on Whatnot for probably the most part of this year, I would say. Before that, we were streaming on VOT. There was a website before Whatnot.
Yeah,
VOT.
I was approached by them, but I never went anywhere with it.
Yeah, they used to be called. Was it Bits?
I don't know what it was before. I only know it as what it was now.
I can't remember what they called it, but anyway, that's shut down now. Anyway, so yeah, we've been on it for sort of the best part of the year. I do see it as a really good opportunity to grow. I mean, there's some sellers on there that are on there every single day, and you look through their sold lists, and you're like, Christ, they've taken thousands.
I know.
And at the moment, there's not a ton of competition on there. It's not a saturated market yet. But I also wonder because eBay are doing their own live selling thing, as well, aren't they? So I know that they've already started doing that in the US, and I wonder how that will affect Whatnot when that eventually comes over here.
It's how long they take to get their ass into gear, isn't it? That's the thing. Because I don't know if you've watched any of the eBay live selling in the US. I've watched a few of them because you can access them if you go on your phone, and you can watch them. And it's very, very similar to Whatnot, not dissimilar, and it looks very interesting. And it could be a game changer when that comes out. Could really, really shake up the market. And like I was saying on our YouTube show this week, we were talking about live selling, and it's just going to be interesting when eBay come out with that. It could really damage Whatnot, but on the other hand, it depends how long it takes, because Whatnot are slowly getting a foothold in various categories now, clothing now as well, and it's looking interesting, and I'm really enjoying Whatnot. I'm just enjoying it while it's going well, and maybe it will calm down a bit. Maybe it will quieten down when competition grows. I don't know, but yeah.
I think live selling though is here to stay. I mean, you look at QVC and how long that's been going. I mean, and they sell boring stuff generally. If you're live selling, you've got a community, you've got lights going on in the background, you're showing Funko Pops and Pokemon cards. It's interactive. People enjoy it. It's entertaining. Like I have some people that come into my streams. They don't ever buy anything. They just enjoy the stream, and they just want to chat and hang out with people, which is fine. You don't have to spend money, of course. But I think that kind of shows that people are just willing to be there. And occasionally they may impulse buy anyway. But eBay's got such a much bigger platform. I mean, it'll be worldwide. Whereas on Whatnot, when you look at the streams that are currently running, the most have probably got around 50, 60 watchers, and then it will quickly tumble down to some people who've got 10, 15 maybe. So it's it hasn't got as many active users on it on an hourly basis. Whereas on eBay, I think you could log on at 10 o'clock in the morning and you'd have 1,000 people potentially looking at your stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think that would be a big difference because at the moment I'm tending to, when I do my shows, I'm tending to do them in an evening around sort of 7 o'clock in an evening to try and maximize the amount of people who are able to be there. But ideally, I like to have my evenings to me and
To
the
yourself.
missus.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be doing that in an evening. So as it grows or as eBay come along, I would quite like to do daytime shows. But at the moment, I'm not really willing to do it because I don't think there's going to be enough people sort of there.
I've done some daytime shows.
How have you found them?
For me, it's been very up and down, and it really depends what you're selling, I think. I mean, we done a daytime stream for when Pokemon 151 came out, and we were selling packs hand over fist. And then we did a toy stream during the day, and I think I made $5 in 2 hours. So it can be swings and roundabouts, definitely.
TikTok. What about TikTok shops? Have you touched on those at all?
I've got a TikTok shop, but it's another thing that you've got to upload your products to, and it's just, it's so much work. And I think like at the moment, it's like you say as well, I wanted to try and get more into Whatnot because it's just less work, like the thing I hate the most about being a reseller is taking pictures of everything. I hate it. And listing it. I hate that.
Listing is worse than photos.
Oh, listing and photos definitely the worst. And if you can just hold something up and say, does anyone want this for a $5? And even if you only make £3 on that item, it's 10-second auctions, and if you can sell something every 10 seconds and make £3, well, I wouldn't mind doing that for the rest of my life,
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I kind of find the same. I go when I'm doing a Whatnot show, and people are different because some people go on and they will have their price in their mind of what they want for an item. So even in my niche that I sell in, say collectibles and toys and stuff, that's mainly what I'm doing on Whatnot. So some sellers of Funko Pops, say for example, some sellers will go on and they'll say, okay, they'll present an item and they'll tell you how much it is to start with. So here's a Funko. I'm starting this at £10 because that's basically their bottom line. Yeah. So they need to take £10 for it. And if it sells, great. If it doesn't sell, they'll put it away and they'll get another one out. And this one's £20. And then this one's £30. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at the moment, the way my shows are working is when I put stuff out, it's going to sell no matter what. Because I'm going to start it at £1. And we do these walls. So I'll put it all out on a wall. I'll put like 12 items out at once. And when you're bidding for the chance to choose what item you want to pick off the wall.
Right.
And it starts at £1. And occasionally something will go for £1 because that's just the nature of Whatnot.
Yeah.
It will go for £1 sometimes. But when I'm doing a show, what I'm saying to myself is everything is selling. It's going, whether it goes for £1 or it goes for £50, it's going. And yeah, people, it's interesting to watch how people operate slightly differently because, like I said before, some people I've seen can do like an hour show and sell one item because they've got their set prices and they've got their margins to keep and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you can go on and you can start at £1 and, take your chances and just sell it all. That's what I say at the start of the show is I'm here to sell and everything that you see is going to sell no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely I think as well, it kind of depends on, I mean, sometimes what I sell things for depends on how much I bought it for.
Of course.
Like if you buy something and it's worth £100, say, on eBay, you might, if you only paid £1 for it, you might be willing to let it go for £70. But if you bought it for 50 to flip for 100, then
you'd be less careful.
You'd be less inclined to let it go for £70. So I definitely think that plays a role in it. And Funko Pops, for example, are getting sort of harder and harder to pick up at a decent price for us.
Mm.
Even at boot sales, I find that they've kind of gone from being sold for £3 to £5 each now, and £6 and stuff like that. And of course you can do your bundled deals and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But when the base price is usually £3, and you might be able to get them for £2 each, now it's like £5, and you might be able to get them for £3 each if you're lucky. So that definitely plays a role as well.
It's definitely interesting to see how people operate, and most of the time it is due to what you said. It's probably due to cost price. I mean, if you're a Funko seller and it's cost you £5 a Funko, you really don't want to be starting at £1, because chances are it could well end less than £5, and then you're out of pocket. And I totally understand that. Yeah. So it's good to see how people sell, because people have different ideas. I mean, I stole that wall idea off Magpie Toys, and they were doing it in the early days. They don't really do it much anymore, the walls. They just tend to just put an item out and sell it. But yeah, I got that idea from them.
That kind of, and I think as well, like, you will find that as your following grows. I mean, Magpie Toys, they've got like 60 viewers watching at any one time, right? So if you put out a £10 item, you've got 60 opportunities to sell it. Whereas if you've only got 10 people watching it, you've got less people to sell to. And
definitely,
if you've got a Funko Pop of Wallace and Gromit, for example, people that are under the age of 20 might not give a damn about Wallace and Gromit, but the people above the age of, 30 and above might. So Funko Pop's kind of definitely they're not niche, are they? But each sort of franchise
one can be. Yeah.
And that's the thing with Funko Pops. Whereas with Pokemon, if you're into Pokemon, you're into Pokemon.
Exactly, yeah. It's a little bit different. I mean, you can be into Funko Pops, but you cannot be into 90% of what you might look at in Funko Pops.
Exactly.
So, you can be into it, but not into a large part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And people only collect the Funko Pops. They don't collect Funko Pops. They collect Batman or Predator or stuff like that. And then they might pick up the Funko Pop on top of that.
Exactly,
It's very rare that people have got a whole wall of Funko Pops. So one is Toy Story, the other one's Wallace and
Gromit. There's not many people that will collect anything and everything Funko, because I mean you are down a massive rabbit hole if you are doing that. Jesus, hundreds of thousands.
And the thing is as well is they're so big as well, Funko Pops, and they're sort of big for the amount of value you get in them.
Yeah.
They take up quite a lot of space. If you collect cards, you can fit 1,000 of them in a little binder.
Well,
with Funko Pops,
it's a little bit different.
So I think people are more picky when they're buying Funko Pops as a result. Sorry, that was what my point was supposed to be.
No, totally. No, you're right. I'm exactly the same. I buy Funkos, but I've not got many in here. But that's because I just buy the ones that I like from the films that I like to watch and the TV series I like to watch. I think most people are the same. Just flicking through some of the comments before we wrap up, Bill. Jeff on YouTube says, another YouTube reseller we watched from Chicago, Craigslist Hunter, just started using a new live selling platform the other day, something called District.
I've not heard of
Must be just in the US. That Jeff, not heard of that one, but I think we'll see more and more popping up.
We've already seen one come and go, haven't we? What was the one in the UK that a lot of people?
Poshmark.
That's it, Poshmark. Yeah, I mean that just completely died a death out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, I know. A lot of people put a lot of time into their Poshmark stores, and they really didn't put the effort into advertising stuff.
It felt like a lot of sellers selling to resellers, And I think that's kind of what we, as a platform on eBay, the reason why eBay is so attractive is because there are a lot of sellers on there, obviously, but there's also a hell of a lot of buyers. Like 1 billion people use it.
Guaz on YouTube says selling items at £1 must be costing you. Do you mean when I start stuff at £1, Guaz? Or do you just mean like if somebody sells like a Pokemon card for £1 on whatnot? Because if you're talking about me selling something for £1, like starting price at £1, it's very rare that something actually ends at £1. What I did sell on my T-shirt show, this is the remains of it here. Somebody did get a T-shirt for £1, I think. So yeah, obviously I lost money on that, but on the whole, I think starting at £1 gets more interest than if you say start at £5. I think it just gets a bit more sort of gets that bidding war going, and it gets a bit of interest going.
Yeah, and it shows activity as well. People are attracted to activity.
Yeah. The problem that you do have in selling something for £1, pretty much on any platform, is those flat fees as well as the percentages that you get. Because Whatnot are the same. Whatnot have a flat fee and they have a percentage. So they have a per item fee, which I think is it about 30p or something.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. And
I
then
think
like
it's
8%, isn't
30p
it?
an item, flat fee. Then it's 8%, and then there's another 3% for processing fees. So if you sell something for £1, you're basically getting about 50p out of it.
Mm.
That's the way I understand it. But that's mainly because of that 30p. Whereas obviously the 30p is fairly insignificant if you sell something for £10 or £20. So yeah, I hope I answered that, Gwaz. And let's see if there's any more chat before we call it a day. Only cool stuff. Hi Z on YouTube. Also, if you are building a following, I guess you have to accept that the first few streams are more about that. Yeah, early
Definitely so,
streams, especially on Whatnot, early streams, you're just trying to get people to follow you. You're building your audience. You might have to take a few hits. I remember I don't know what your first Whatnot streams were like, but my first couple of ones were fairly low numbers of bids. Some things didn't sell. I didn't do walls when I first started. I was basically presenting an item and starting it at £5. And some things didn't sell, some things did sell, and it was very hit and miss. But it was a learning curve because that was the first time I'd ever really done anything like that, other than like the odd auction on YouTube, the first time. So it's a steep learning curve, but it's fun as well. It's even for me as a seller, it's quite good fun doing it.
It's exhausting though, isn't it? I mean, like
Knackered.
some of my streams
Absolutely
go on for like 3
knackered.
hours, and afterwards I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I did a stream a couple of weeks ago. It ended up being 4 hours in an evening, selling toys and collectibles. It was great fun, but I was exhausted. It is really tiring. But the worst thing about collectibles, and you're not going to get this that much because you got an easy job. You just get to put those things in a bloody envelope. With toys, oh my God, the packaging the next day is horrendous. When you've got 50 items to package and they are all different freaking sizes, shapes, I've had to source new places to get free boxes from because of Whatnot, and it is horrible. The packaging took me about 4 hours the next day. However, when you do dip into clothing, like I did t-shirts recently, that was lovely. That I sold 81 t-shirts the other night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in one go, 81 t-shirts, and it took me less than an hour to package them. It was belting.
See,
that's the future.
You've got to work smarter, Chris, and not harder.
Exactly. Clothing is the future. Definitely.
How do you, Chris, actually, while I've got you talking about Whatnot, one thing that I struggle with, right, is with the toys, is like, how do you label up who's bought what? So, because what I would do is I would just have everything on the screen, and this is the item on the screen, and it starts at this amount. So do you like label it? Do you write it down?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't actually come up on the platform, does it?
No, on my streams, I do have some buy it nows, but mainly what I do is I just have a raft of buyer's choice listings. Mm-hmm. So it's basically whatever is on screen or someone chooses something. Yeah. So what I do is whenever somebody buys something, I have a load of bags. I have a load of heavy duty bags. Like last week I was using bin bags, but really thick, heavy duty ones. And I just write down the buyer's name and I staple it on the bag, on the top of the bag, and I put the stuff in. And basically what happens is by the end of the stream, I've got a room full of bags. And because most of the time, to be honest with you, what happens is a lot of the time people will buy more than one item.
Yeah, definitely.
During the stream, they will buy multiples.
Because they've paid for their shipping, haven't they?
Exactly. The shipping gets really cheap after the first one.
Mm.
So when they buy multiples, I just throw it in the same bag. The only issue I have is finding the right bag. That can be a problem. So I've got 30 bags. By the end of the stream, I'm like, I can't find this guy's bag. Yeah, so that's how I do it.
It's almost like you need someone next to you, isn't it? Like, right, I've sold this, put this in that person's bag, you know? Like, I do that with my missus, but she wouldn't want to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, Belle has helped out quite a few streams now. She quite enjoys it. She enjoys getting involved as well. She likes a little chat as well, because you got a nice little community going. There's people that have come over from YouTube who know us from YouTube, some people from Instagram, and then just new people just come along and join in.
Yeah, well, Belle's very, she's quite outgoing anyway, isn't she? She likes to get involved. Whereas I think you have to you have to at very least be a little bit like that to be able to be on Whatnot. And, you know, I've met quite a few people that are, you know, quite timid and shy, and they've joined Whatnot, and it's actually brought them out of their shell.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good tool for that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're done, Belle. I think we've had a good chat there. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah,
I'm just reading through. Yeah, I'm just checking on the YouTube chat here. Yeah, I think we're done. It's been really good. Thank you so much for popping on. Do you want to let anybody know watching, like, where they can find you, where your websites are? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you can find us if you just search for Dungeons and Joypads anywhere on the interwebs. You'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And of course as well, if you want to pick up a pin pal binder, pin-pal.com.
Oh yeah. pin-pal.com.
And if you want to follow us on Instagram, actually we've got a giveaway that's ending today for a pin pal binder.
Ooh.
So go onto our pin pal Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter, and join the giveaway. And you might be able to win yourself one.
Lovely. So yeah, go and join the giveaway.
Yeah.
Other than that, thank you everybody for watching us here on YouTube Live. Really appreciate you popping along. I hope you found it interesting as well. Drop us a comment, let us know what you thought. And if you are listening back on any of the podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff, please do what you have to do to acknowledge that you've watched this and download it or give it a thumbs up or something like that. I don't know. They're all different. But I really appreciate it. And we'll be out with another episode next week. So look out for that. Thank you, everyone. And cheers, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us on. I really enjoyed it, actually. It was good to have a chat
Lovely.
about the resellers.
It was a good chat. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
That's it for today's episode of the Everything Reselling Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, to follow, or to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.